review is for Michelle Flemming of Michelle Flemming Communications. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some of the things that I really like about your website, and then I will offer some suggestions, about 7 or 8 suggestions. So the first thing that I wanted to say is that I like the fact that you've got packages put together. So let me just run to your services page, and you've got packages which outline everything that you do. So really well done on that. People tend to like packages, and especially when you explain everything that's included. You have links to social media on every page. Well done on that. And your website includes privacy policy and also terms and conditions. Those 2 pages are something that's missing on a lot of websites. So well done that you have included those. I also like the fact that you've got a contact page, and that people can contact you not only by email, but by phone, but also a form. You may want to consider maybe even including Skype details and your address, or at least a postal address, so that people know where you are located. Because just judging by a mobile number, people don't know what state you're in, and therefore, you know, if you're in Perth or you're in Sydney, like the time difference can be quite big. So I would include at least a PO box or the area if you don't want to, if you work from home, for example, and you don't want to have that online. And your navigation is super easy to follow. So those are the things that I really like about your website. Now, in terms of suggestions for improvement, the first thing that I wanted to say is your domain name is really long, and so it would be hard to promote it and for people to remember it. I would, if you were able to, and it may not be available, is just to go maybe Flemming Communications. Even printing things like that, michelleflemmingcommunications.com.au, or, you know, if you're trying to print things on your business cards, that's going to be really hard. So I would just shorten it if you can. And the other thing too, your website is not secure. So if you can see here, Google is already pointing it out, and it's going to make people nervous to come to your website, and they're not going to fill out your contact form because they know that, you know, the details are not secure. So I would contact my web hosting company if I were you, and ask them to organize an SSL certificate, and that will change that from not secure to secure. Now, in terms of the design, I quite like your logo, Michelle Flemming Communications. That's quite pretty, but I'm finding that the blue here, the big blue block, and also down here, a little bit, it looks a little bit outdated. These days, everything in terms of design trends, it's very simple, and so I'm finding that this is just too busy and too in your face. I would probably remove, including these images, they look a little bit old-fashioned, I would say. I would recommend removing all these images and having your photo there, just especially if you are the face of the business. So put one big photo of you here. If you can get professional photos, they make often make a lot of difference. And just reducing the size of this, because that takes up too much real estate at the top of the page. Your homepage should focus on the problems that you are solving for your customers. So highlight them somewhere as early on in the page as you can, and then offer the solutions. And I know that you've highlighted here what services you offer, so that's good, but also maybe highlight the pain points and problems and issues people are facing. The other thing I wanted to mention, the font on your website is quite hard to read, and I'm not sure whether it's because it's grey or because of the font it is. So you may want to play with that, because at the moment it's, you know, I really have to strain my eyes to be able to read it, and it should be clear. And especially, I'm not sure how it appears on mobile phones. I haven't checked that, but on mobile phones it may be even more difficult. Your blog is outdated, and you mentioned that you're asking people to come back every week, but from what I saw, I don't think it's been updated for quite a while. So I would catch up on that or just not have it there at all. I mean, I think blogs are a great idea to have, but it's also important to keep them up to date. If you know you're going to update it once a month, don't tell people to check in a week to see what you're doing. So it, as I said, you know, keep the blog, but update it a little bit more regularly. On the home page, there are really no calls to action, and you are not collecting people's email addresses. It's important to understand when somebody arrives at your website, they're not going to know where to go and what to do, and you want to show them, you want to tell them exactly what you want them to do. Do you want them to download a report? Do you want them to book for a webinar? Do you want them to schedule a consult? Anything like that. You want to grab their details and then keep in touch with them, provide them with more information so that they get to know you, like you, and trust you. So if you can have some calls to action early on in the page, that would be ideal. I would also encourage you to prove your credibility by having testimonials on your website. And I think you had some on your About Me page, which is good. But I would actually have a testimonials page and perhaps even a case study. So if you've turned somebody's around with your business, around with your services, feature them as a case study and explain what they were struggling with, then the process that you went with, and ultimately the outcome. The other page, which I think is particularly important for you since you help people to get in the media, is to feature what media you have been in, because that will give you great credibility that you know what you're doing and that you have the contacts. Additional pages that I would include would be frequently asked questions. So basically take the content of your website and turn it into questions. People, that's usually the first page that people will go to when they arrive on a website. I think we get a little bit lazy to read a lot of information, and so people assume that's where they're going to get answers to all of the questions that they may have about you and your business. You may also want to include resources and links on your website. And finally, I would include a social media sharing bar down here, which allows people to share the content of your website, particularly if you have really good blog posts. So that's all from me today, Michelle. If you are interested in a more comprehensive website review, please don't hesitate to contact me. And thank you for the opportunity to review your website.